Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this opportunity, we'll be talking about managing projects because, of course, after we have designed the project, the information system project that we would be developing, then comes the part where we actually make the information system. And that's why the ability to manage projects is very important. Now, first we would be talking about selecting the projects, trying to find out which projects are worth it, which are not worth it. And then we would be trying to find the business value of the information system, of course, for the organization or for the company itself. First, we would be talking about the importance of project management. Why is project management important? Why not just let the activities go on its own? Now, the first problem, if we do not have a project management system, is that there would be runaway projects and system failures. What are runaway projects? Those are projects that exceed the schedule or the budget, and eventually they will be failing to perform as expected. Now, for example, let's say the time for developing the project would be 3 months. It might exceed into 6 months, maybe even a year. Why is that? Maybe because the requirements change, because more people are giving their opinions, and it seems that the plan that was first initiated is not enough, and then you would have to expand the functions of the system. Previously, there were 3 functions. Then you would come up with 6 functions, and of course, the time would be needed to expand. The budget would also need to be enlarged as well. Or there might be the case that the functions doesn't work properly. Now, 30 to 40% of IT projects experiences runaway projects. And then there are several types of failures that could happen. For instance, this is at the analysis stage. There's a failure to capture the essential business requirements. So the system analyst could not figure out what actually is required by the business in order to solve the problem that they are facing. Now, this shows that the system analyst needs a good understanding of business practices, of how to solve business problems. It could be the case where the system does not give the needed benefits for the organization. It does not solve the problem of the company. It could be, of course, also because of poorly organized user interface. The screen that is shown might be cluttered, too many things put in there, too many information, or it might be that it's too complicated to use, or the data might be inaccurate and inconsistent. And here's an overview of what we have just discussed there. Now, in project management, you would be planning the work, meaning that you would be trying to break down the smallest up to the level of the smallest activities that are needed to do the project. And then you find out what are the risks that might happen when you manage the projects, what are the resources, including in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of talent, skills that are needed. You have to organize the work. Which comes first? How long does it need for each work? And so on. Who would be doing the task? And then how do you control whether the project, each step of the project is correctly implemented and on time or not? How do you report the progress? And also, you would have to analyze the results of those activities. Now, as in all other projects, there are several variables that you have to consider. The first one, you have to consider the scope. how large is the system? Who are the users that would be supported by the system? What are the functions that the system must have? And then how much time do you have to develop the system? How much budget would you allocate? And what is the level of quality? Is it, let's say, 99.9% bug free? Or are you willing to tolerate, let's say, 95% of the system being able to be going well at the first try? And what are the risks if you are not able to run the system? Or maybe the risk in terms of people not using the system. Now, as in other projects, you would have to decide which is the main priority. In a certain case, it might be time being the first priority. You could not make a system that takes longer than 3 months, for instance. It might be the cost, because for a company, it might only have, let's say, $1 million, or let's say 10 billion rupiahs, for instance. Or maybe they might only have 100 million rupiahs, or maybe even less. Okay. And they might be trying to fulfill the quality first. Okay. It has to be a good system that gives good analysis results and so on. And then you have to consider which might be the second priority, which is the third priority, and so on. So this is different, unique for each company, and the project manager needs to talk with the management about the order of these priorities. Now here is the management structure for an information system project. If it's a large company, then at the highest level, at the CEO, CFO, CKO, Chief Knowledge Officer level, you would have the corporate strategic planning group. Of course, they are responsible for making the strategic plan. And then you have the information system steering committee. This is, you can see here, this would be between the senior management and the middle management. And then you have the project management group, which would be responsible for overseeing specific projects, while the steering committee would be overseeing all the projects in all the divisions. So it's the steering committee is here, the project management level is between middle management and operational level. And there's a project team at the operational level, which would be responsible for controlling individual projects, because in a company there might be several projects, each supporting a different division. One division might have several projects going on, making information systems with different functions as well. Now you would also have to develop the information systems plan. Now it would be showing how the system would be delivering business value. What are the benefits for the business that the business would get from that system? And then they would be developing also the roadmap in the development of the system, including purpose of the plan, why is the system being made, and in terms of business strategy, how does the system fit in with the business strategy of the company? And also about the current systems or the situation of information systems that is happening in the company. Does the company have enough information systems? What type of systems does it have, and so on? And then new developments that are being made in the company in terms of new information systems. What are the management strategy for developing the systems, the implementation plan, and the budget that is allocated for developing those systems? Now, in order to make an effective plan, you need to do an inventory and documentation, trying to map out what are the existing systems that are available? What are the components of the systems that are already available? And then what are the improvements that the company will will experience in terms of decision making? How better would the decision making process be? Would it be faster? Would it be more accurate? Would it be more widespread? And then how do you measure the success of the systems? Now, you would also need an understanding of the long-term and short-term information requirements. And after that, you have to also identify the key performance indicators, which shows that the system is performing well. And how do you measure the performance of the company, and how much will the company increase its performance because of using that information system? You might use, for instance, in terms of production cost. So is the production more efficient or not? Is the cost of goods lower or not? Also the labor cost, because if you automate, then you might not need as many people working on a certain process than before, and so on. That's also when you select the projects, that's what we call portfolio analysis. You know, a portfolio is like assessing a basket full of eggs, for instance. You would be trying to find out which are the good eggs, which are the bad eggs. So in this sense, in a company, there might be several projects going on, and then you would be evaluating the different projects that are going on, and then you would be trying to make a profile of those projects based on the risks and benefits. There could be several variations here. And then you would be trying to figure out how to balance between risk and return from the different systems that you are investing in. Now, here's the variations in the portfolio that we just showed in a while ago. There are two things here. You have project risk and you have benefits. Of course, if it's high risk, the benefits usually might be high. So of course, if you have a high risk project, you would be expecting the benefits to be also high. But even in this case, you have to cautiously examine, check whether this is true or not, check whether the risks are worth taking or not. And then, of course, if it's high risk, but the benefits are low, of course you have to avoid it, because no one wants to risk something that might wreck the company, that might be rejected by the users, by the, let's say, the employees, even maybe the managers, while it doesn't give many benefit. Another case would be a project having a low risk but high benefits. Now, this is something that you would really like. Managers would like that because the risk is low, so you don't have the risk of rejection, for instance. Also risk meaning the budget is also low, but you get high benefits. So you have to identify these types of projects and then develop those systems. And there are also projects, information systems that are low risk but also low benefit. So these are routine projects that you do all the time because the budget that is needed is low, the fund is not much, but of course it's low benefit. It's a routine project. Well, you have to do this anyhow. Now, there are some ways to score between which systems you would have to, which is better to be implemented. So here, you first state the criteria for the development of a system. So let's say there are two competing systems, offered by two consultants, and then they have the same functions. So these are the functions that you would be expecting from the system. And each function, each criteria would be given a weight, and then each system would be given a score. Of course, a score. Of course, you have to try the system. Okay. And then weight times score equals 268 in this case. That's for system A, for the online order entry. For system B, the score is 73. That's better than system A. And the weight is 4. 4 times 73, it's 292. And then for all the criteria, you add it up. And then you find out that system A gets a 3,128 score, system B, 3,300. So of course, you'll be choosing system B because this is meeting your criteria the most. Now here, after that, after you select it based on the risks and benefits, now you would also be assessing the business value of information systems. There might be tangible benefits. There might be intangible benefits. Tangible benefits could be quantified. You could give a monetary value. How much in terms of benefits would it give in terms of rupiahs or dollars? And then whether the system would be replacing or displacing labor and saving space in the factory or maybe in the office. There are also intangible benefits, benefits that you cannot directly quantify. But eventually in the long run, not the short term, but in the long run, you would be gaining benefits. For example, if you are more efficient in your customer service, let's say you respond quicker to the customer's needs, or let's say in that case, a person, a staff, a customer service staff could service, let's say 30% more customers at the same time. So that would be not immediately felt, but in the long term, customers would be more satisfied, and then you could serve more customers. That would also be countable later on. Also in terms of decision making, if you can make better decisions, it might not be apparent, be seen directly, but eventually in the long term, you would be benefiting from those better decisions. Now, there are also examples here of systems that influence decision making, like executive support system, decision support systems, and collaborative work systems. You would also be able to do capital budgeting for information systems. Those are trying to give a monetary value on the investment being made in information system projects. So this would be using financial methods. And you would also take a look at the expenditures, the outflows, meaning the amount of money that goes out of the company to pay for the development of the system, including for hardware, software, labor, but then also including the inflows, the cash coming into the system because you sell more products, because the cost of production is lower. And there are several models that you can use to do capital budgeting. For instance, the payback method, the accounting rate of return, net present value, internal rate of return, and so on. There's also what we call a real options pricing model. So this is trying to find out the future revenue that would be gained by the company. So it's not about just the increase in sales right after the development of the system, but about future income because of IT projects that are invested right now. So this model gives flexibility for the IT managers for doing IT investment because there are some information system projects that would not right away give benefit, but in the long run, it would be giving benefit and gaining revenue for the company. So this would be trying to overcome the limitations of financial models, because financial models do not consider social and organizational dimensions. For instance, the implementation of an information system might be generating better collaboration between the employers or between managers or between all different levels. For instance, it might increase innovation in a company. The company becomes more dynamic, more faster, more being able to faster come up with new products, being more sensitive towards the demand of the customer, for instance. And those things are not covered in the financial models, but could be covered in the real options pricing model. So these are the different things that you need to do and you can do when you assess and select information system projects. Hope it would be useful. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.